All right, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau is already kicking things up a notch to set up the International Women's Day on Thursday. She was out in front of Care Canada's Walk in Her Shoes event to promote gender equality and women's rights around the world. She joins me in the studio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Don.
And all, that's great. Look, that's a pretty big goal, and I want you to try if you can take Canadians for a bit of a walk in these shoes, because I was reading that, what's the stat? 13.5 million African women walk like 30 minutes just to get water or firewood. What do you hope to achieve by this?
10,000 steps every day for a woman to simply get water and to sustain her family. It's incredible how lucky we are here, and I think that we must remind ourselves how lucky we are, although some people are more disadvantaged in our own country here in Canada. But the fact that so many women don't have the same equal rights and freedoms across this planet is alarming. And if we want a society to flourish, we have to invest in women's health. They are still the nucleus of the family, they are the womb of humanity, and we must understand that we don't know them. They're across an ocean or another continent, but they're our sisters, they are our mothers, they are our daughters, and we are responsible as a society to make sure that we look at the facts and the evidence and the data, and to make sure that we take decisions as individuals in our daily lives, as governments, as companies, to make sure that we do everything that we can in our daily actions to create more equality in this country and in the world.
Yeah, and I guess a big effort should be to bring water to the villages and that sort of thing. I mean, walking 30 minutes or 5 kilometers just to get some water or firewood, that's part of the problem too, right?
The most vulnerable people on this planet are women and children, and when you look at environmental disasters, war, they are such at risk. And the more these things happen, the more vulnerable they will become in their daily situations, and they're taken away from schools because they can't get an education because they have to spend that much time to get water. So let's remind ourselves how lucky we are here, and to help people who are not as lucky as we are.
You know, the budget came out, and I think you might have a lobbying voice if you wanted to use it against an influential person behind that budget, but I won't get into
don't do that.
I think you probably just do it by example, but I'm curious, like $400 million is sent to help international feminism around the world. What do you hope that does? I think most people see the number and see what it's supposed to go for, but they don't understand what good that could do.
Well, you know, it's not about what I hope it does. We have been listening to so many organizations, and thousands of people and experts in their own industries have been telling us what is needed on the ground here in this country and across the world, because they are the organizations on the ground seeing the suffering of women and girls across the world, and telling us what can we do to make a difference, where are the funds needed, and the resources should be allocated. So we have been listening, and in this budget I'm happy and I'm reassured to see that we are taking gender equality in a very serious manner, and we have understood that the more we invest in girls and women, the better a society will thrive.
I haven't had you on the show since sort of Me Too erupted, and I'm curious what you make of that. Is this movement here for good, and are you part of that experience? Have you experienced that kind of harassment?
My question would, well, no, I haven't experienced that kind of harassment, but my question is, are you part? We are all part, right? When one human being suffers in a whole, the whole suffers as well, and we must face our truths. We are at a moment in our history where we have the evidence, the data, the science, the research to show us our truths. And we must face them before they face us. And there's a high price to pay when it comes to inequality. So the important thing is really to make sure that we look at these truths, and that we make decisions not based on what we think is right, based on what we think should be done according to these numbers. And this is why Canada's International Feminist Assistance Policy is so important, because we look at a gender lens through every decision that every ministry and every decision that is made by our government.
This is a bit of an awkward one, but you were in India and you wore a lot of ethnic clothing, and it was made in Canada, and some people don't know this, but it was actually made by Syrian refugees in some cases, seamstresses. Yes. Were you surprised at all the backlash you got to that?
You know, it's always surprising when you hear the negative on something that went so well. When I was in India, I met with dozens of women who work for domestic abuse and prevention of domestic abuse, of child exploitation, of human trafficking, that are doing such amazing things on the ground. I met with school students and young girls who took their plane for the first time to meet with officials from Nutrition International, to which Canada gives $30 million a year since 1995, and we are continuing to contribute to make sure sure that girls have the basic nutrition that they need from the get-go to flourish and to have a full potential and participation in their own communities. So I focus on the important. I think that that's also a life lesson. I have 3 kids. I'm an active person. We keep things real, and you got to focus on the positive.
I know, but it was well-intentioned. You were trying to showcase Canadian designers, right? And yet you took all this heat for that. It must have surprised you.
I have enough love and stability in my life to take this heat, and you know, when you're on official trips, it's not a vacation.
Right.
It's serious work,
right.
And it's a crazy rhythm. And the kids are really good to adapt because it is really crazy. I think it's important to also know that on official trips, you listen to to officials who guide you in also clothing choices, because there are certain places where you have to have your head covered, for example, or whatever it is. And I listen to the professionals. Okay,
I don't want to go there. But final question: you get stopped for photos all the time. Do you know this Atwal guy that you were stuck beside? Was that the first time you'd ever seen him?
First time I ever saw him. When we stand in a photo line, or when people come up to us to ask pictures, it's always a moment where I remind myself it is their moment, and it is my moment because these people are showing me trust and confidence. Right. So I stand there with all my presence and I take a picture, and with pleasure. Then something shocking comes along. That's life, right?
I didn't think you'd know, but anyway. All right, Sophie, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you. Appreciate this.
Thank you, Don.